Greetings, petrolheads. Welcome back to Automation, the car company tycoon game. Today we're gonna do some more engine tutorials. Let's see, we have the Inline 4, we have the V8, and next up is gonna be the Inline 6s. Let's make them from a reasonable aluminium here. Go with the dual overhead cam follower per cylinder like we always did. Now there's something to be said, like who built inline sixes these days? It's mainly BMW, and you know, actually who else is building inline six engines these days? I don't know. I don't even know. In any case, for BMWs, it has been kind of standard to go for VVL or VANOS as it's called there. Like every manufacturer has some sort of variable valve timing, variable valve lift, variable cam timing, and stuff like that. They all call it differently, but it's in essence it's a combination of what the game calls VVT plus VVL. So yeah, we're gonna go for both of these things on this engine, on these engines, I should say. As far as bore and stroke goes, I think we're gonna make this a little bit on the stroke heavy side, like 90 on the stroke. And then reduce the bores over at 3 liters. Let's let it below that, like this, 84 by 90. Because 3 liter is, I'm assuming, a pretty reasonable size for an inline 6. It's also pretty common size for generally 6-cylinder engines, be it inline 6s or V6s. And of course VVL, as I said. Now, since we're gonna start with the budget engine, actually, should we start with we'll call this an eco engine instead, because it's not really gonna be that cheap with the VVT plus VVL setup. Go for forged H-beam conrods, I would say, because we're not gonna rev this variant very high. Others maybe, but not this one. And tempted to go with the low friction cast, but the low RPM limit is gonna, well, I'm not gonna say it's gonna, but might cause a little bit of issues. In any case, now since we're gonna turbocharge this engine, like we are gonna go for a pretty low compression, and we certainly don't need very much cam profile or VVL profile on this engine, and we're definitely gonna produce more than 200 horsepower, so don't be afraid, even on this eco engine. And if we don't make 200 horsepower right away, I'll definitely tune it so that we do. Gonna reduce the turbine size here a little bit, increase the AR to like 0.9. The boost goes down to 0.7, I would say. And we're gonna go with direct injection as always. This is the eco variant, so we're not gonna go for throttle per cylinder or performance intake or anything like that. Lean it out. Let's just keep the RPM limit here for now. We can always change things later. We are expecting to produce about this much power, 219 horsepower, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. We'll see. Oh, or maybe quite a bit more. But now, yeah, definitely we are kind of struggling with our bottom end. Also, the exhaust is restrictive. don't want to go that high. 242. Let's keep it here. Okay, now we have some very weird torque curve, which we are definitely gonna address. This is why VVL takes a little bit of time to get used to. It's if you wanna get a reasonably flat torque curve like this, it definitely needs some time for tweaking. Bottom end part is reducing reliability. I mean, we are making good economy out of this thing. We are at 34.26%. What if we go for these for lower emissions? Then these are fine. We did lose some of the efficiency though. Actually, like 3.5% of the efficiency. It's not meaningless. I'm gonna reduce this some more. 249 horsepower. Let's see how high can we rev this thing without making any problems. So 6200 RPM seems to be it. I kind of like the idea of having the exhaust being slightly restrictive, because if we open it up, not only are we making the engine knock by that, also the power and the torque in the higher RPMs will, increase, and that'll make the engine a little bit less drivable in the final car, and it'll make, just the overall engine output a little bit more peaky. And I think for an eco car that's more about drivability and flexibility, I think this is the better setup. So overall, this is going to be the 2015 i6 tutorial, and we are going to call this the Turbo Eco, because that's what it is. Alright, 31.29% of economy with 250 horsepower, 380 newton meters. I think those are decent numbers. So now we are going to clone this engine and make a sport version out of it. Because this is going to be a sport version, we're going to be making more torque. And we're going to rev it higher, which is why we're going to change the components here. First of all, we're going to increase the rev limit to like 6700 or so. We're going to open up the exhaust a little bit. Increase the VVL profile, and again, this is like a matter of how far do we want to go. For a sport engine, I imagine we are aiming for like, I don't know, 300, maybe 350 horsepower. Therefore, we are going to increase the AR ratio first of all. We can go up to 7,000 without problem. That's really nice. Gonna increase the boost as well. Excuse me. And that'll give us some mid-range torque. .310 horsepower. Let's aim for set BMWs that with the 3-liter turbo engine, like the 135i, the 235i, and whatever, they make about 320 to 340 horsepower, depending on their tunings. So let's aim for that. I'm not liking this. I'm not liking the peak here in the torque. I'd like it to be a little bit more flat, which is why I think I'm gonna decrease the VVL profile, but that's gonna lower our power output. See, this is why I personally don't love VVL, is because you oftentimes have to compromise. It will, if you spend enough time with it, it will be better than the 4-cylinder, not 4-cylinder, but 4 valves per cylinder setup without VVL. But I still kind of think that 5 valves per cylinder is in many cases preferable. I mean, sure, real life examples have shown otherwise, but let's remember for a second that this is not real life. 1.03 seems good here. I'm actually gonna richen the fuel mixture a little bit, so I can then go ahead and increase the boost slightly. Throw some throttle per cylinder configuration in there, because that'll give us a lot more responsiveness, or a lot more throttle response. And we are at 339 horsepower, 340. Okay, that's as far as I wanted to go with this setup here. We're still making 26.11% economy, which is fairly decent, and we are making 72 reliability, which is also very good for a turbo engine. But on the next setup, we're gonna probably be making a little bit lower reliability, because you guessed it, it's gonna be a high-end version. So for that, first of all, higher redline. Still, the only problem we have is valve float. I'm amazed. So we are gonna throw some performance intakes on this, richen the fuel mixture, more boost, a lot more compressor size. Yeah, we have to decrease the compression ratio here. .390 horsepower is a number, 400 horsepower is more. I'm not gonna give up on this engine until I make at least 600 horsepower, so stay with me. It's gonna happen. Because we are of course also going to increase the VVL profile and the cam profile. And then this some more. Now the exhaust is slightly restrictive. Yeah, I can see why. Is it still? No, not anymore. 502 horsepower already, and I'm still by far not done. This doesn't help anymore. But look at how nice our torque curve is now. Yeah, I like it. .510 horsepower. We're at 80 VVL profile. We can go higher on the RPMs, I think. 8200. That's a lot. If I'm not mistaken, even the BMW M4's 3-liter turbocharged, twin turbocharged actually, in a 6 engine revs to 7,500, maybe 7,700 or something. So yeah, We got more revs than a BMW M4. And we got a lot more power as well. Nearly as much torque, but obviously keep in mind that the M4's engine is twin turbocharged, whereas we don't have the option to have or to install twin turbos on inline engines yet. The economy is obviously not as good as before, but that's also not the point. 526 horsepower. I mean, you gotta consider with the turbo kicking in at 3,200 RPM and the rev limit being at 8,200 RPM, this would be a super strong setup. Like if you put this into, say, a medium-sized family saloon, preferably with all-wheel drive, it would go like crazy. Yeah, but I said I would go up until 600 horsepower, so we still got some a long way to go. We need another 74 horsepower, and that's not coming out of nowhere. Now we're at 550 newton meters, which is what the M4 makes. This doesn't help anymore. This does. Kind of running out of options here. Of course, we can always increase the boost. 567. We can increase the quality here a little bit. That did a lot actually. 575. Increase this as well. But stay if you're gonna increase the quality, stay within a reasonable limit. Like +3 is definitely not something it's definitely still reasonable. Whereas if you go ahead and increase just all the sliders to +15, that's probably not going to be affordable for most companies to put an engine like that into mass production. $585. Yeah, I mean, what we're gonna do probably is lower this and increase the booster more. We're making 600 newton meters out of a 3-liter engine. That's just nuts. 588 horsepower. Can we? This still doesn't do anything. $591, $594, $596. Yeah, now we're knocking. Let's decrease this by 1 point, and then we should be good to go. There we go. 601 horsepower, 610 newton meters of torque. 600. Oh, now it does something. Don't want the engine to be even more peaky than it already is, though. In any case, this this is kind of a monster for a turbocharged inline 6 engine that could reasonably be put into like I don't know, into like a BMW M5 kind of competitor. Yeah, this is kind of a monster, really. So let's listen to it before we end this episode. Oh yeah. Reliability is actually higher than I expected. 69.2. I mean, sure, we did increase the quality slightly on some of the parts, not on the bottom end though, and not on the fuel system, only on the head, on the turbo, and on the exhaust. And plus 3 quality is really not that much. It does improve things. Obviously, it's gonna cost more, but it's not, it's not too much out of the ordinary. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Leave a like or a comment if you did. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. And also, before I forget it, I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow. I'm gonna announce on my Twitter the time of the day, and I'm also gonna be streaming automation tomorrow, and maybe something else after that. We'll see. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.